Good afternoon, everybody. Here we go, another lockdown presentation. This time we've got, as you would have seen on the promo image, something a little bit more wild than we've seen so far. Today we've got Alan Walker with us. It's funny, he's in the chat that we had beforehand, he referred to himself as an underwater photographer, and then in that discussion called the rest of us land photographers. And I thought that was quite interesting, his description of that. So I think he's going to give us some reasons why some descriptions why the difference in what we're called, and also some of the challenges that go with being an underwater photographer versus a land photographer. So Alan, over to you. I'm looking forward to your images, mate.
Yes, thank you. Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so it's quite an interesting journey I've been on in terms of underwater photography. And yes, believe it or not, as I mentioned in our previous chat, that I started with underwater photography, and then my wife has quite a keen interest in wildlife in terms of land, etc., and then was obviously converted from underwater to try and do land photography. And I tell you what, it was confusing because I'd basically learned all the rules of underwater photography in the terms that you've got a natural background, you've got a curtain, you've got color, you've got movement, you've got all these weird and wonderful things you can play with in a very limited space and time. And the as I call it, the land photography kind of threw me for a curve, but I think we've got it down pat for a bit. But my passion really still stays with underwater photography. So yeah, hopefully I can introduce you to it, and maybe we can increase the number of underwater photographers in the country. I can literally count them on my hand. It's few and far between, but unfortunately it's quite an expensive sport to take part in, because it's not really just the photography. It's getting out onto a boat, going diving, and all the equipment that you need. So you buy the camera, let's say it costs you 60,000 Rand with your lens and etc. It means you now got to house it. So the housing now will go over that camera, which will cost you 100,000 Rand on top of it, So it just becomes exponential. But I think once the bug is bitten, it's a crazy part of the photography genre. I see Wim van der Heever has recently decided to get underwater housing, and I see he's also kind of spending more time on water than what he is on land. So it's interesting to see how one of our top photographers has actually been got the bug, and hopefully we'll start seeing some good images from him soon.
Absolutely.
But yeah, let's get into the presentation and go from there. All right, okay. So obviously underwater photography is a totally different genre to what most people are used to, and essentially we have very limited light, but there's a lot of energy, like coming from the ocean itself in terms of water, movement, color, all the different types of things. But just to give you an intro, what a typical setup would look like. That's the housing I'm currently using. I've got two of them, and total weight 15 kgs. Believe it or not, 1 kilogram, far too heavy for hand luggage, but we get away with it by taking off the lens in the front. Then it becomes 14.5 kgs, and somehow we get past the guys at the airport, and we're able to carry that on, because the last thing you want to do is put that into your luggage. As I've recently found out when coming back from Cuba, they lost all our dive gear, equipment, everything, all 4 bags, which was pretty hectic. So that's the back end of the housing. As you can see, this housing setup's using fiber optics. I'm still old school. I prefer the sync cables, because the big animals I work with tend to chew up these little fiber optic cords pretty quickly, and they're very expensive. Anything, as soon as you put the word underwater in front of it, people go, okay, I'll just triple the price. For instance, the viewfinder on the back there, I mean, that literally costs around about 50,000 Rand, and it's a simple viewfinder. That's all it is, 180 degree. But because it's underwater and it's rated to 40 meters, etc., now all of a sudden, the price goes up. What is amazing about these housing manufacturers is obviously the technology that goes into it. And you essentially want access to your entire camera, all the settings, everything. And that means these guys need to be smart. And the next picture will give you an idea of an inside of one of these assemblies. And you can look at the gearings, differentials, sleeves within sleeves. Literally, you can get to every single button. You can change settings. You can do what you want. The only problems you do have is when you forget to put in a memory card or a battery, and you find yourself underwater, and that's pretty much that. You know,
how many times have you done that? How many times have you done that and got back on the boat, and well, there you have it.
Each one twice. So yeah, and it happens so quickly. A lot of times you're working on images until 11, 12 at night. You leave the memory card in the computer, you wake up late in the morning, you think, shit, let me just quickly put my camera into the house and get everything going. Switch your camera on as you roll backwards and you go, no memory card. And that lovely message on the screen is there waiting for you. You go, And the problem is that a lot of times we go out for the entire day, you know, because it is rather expensive to launch, etc., etc. And you'll find that we've got a rule between underwater photographers. If you've left it behind, your baby, we ain't going back. So you'll find that there's generally one grumpy photographer on the boat somewhere along the line. I unfortunately had that misfortune in the sardine run in 2011, and someone else snapped a picture of me sitting on the boat pretty grumpy with a whale breaching right next to us. They sent me the picture just for a good sense of humor, but let me say I haven't printed it yet. So if we look back at the housing, you'll also note that there's a lot of wiring and batteries and alarm sensors and stuff. So these housings now work on pressure, so you can depressurize the housing. As soon as there's a change in pressure, the housing will warn you. As soon as there's any moisture entering it, that the housing will warn you. And you have kind of a system that will help you save your camera. Unfortunately, all of this does not work when you're sitting down at 40 meters. Then just your ascent rate is just too slow for a flood, and you can pretty much write your equipment off. That's the front end of the housing, as you can see, all the different gearing once again. And so this is the equipment I use. And last but not least, I just put on an old SIM cord with a strobe. We call them strobes. You guys refer to them as flashes, speed lights, etc. Obviously, quite powerful. And it's pretty much what we have to generate the light that we have. There are obviously far more complicated setups and stuff like that, but I mean, then we're talking Nat Geo, BBC, etc. As an individual, this is pretty much as good as it gets. So getting into the photographs, as you know, underwater, red is the color we lose first. From around about 10 meters, red is already disappearing, and as you go further and further down, red is really not here. So this first image was taken down at 42 meters, where essentially the naked eye would not see red. So we've had to use light to light up the scene and get these fish to pop. Literally, when you see them underwater, they're kind of a grey brown in color. The coral tree is literally a dark brown, and the goldies, they're not too bad, but you would never see a scene like this with the naked eye. It's just another one down at depth where the scorpion fish generally looks a really pale brown, but by using nice light and using the natural light coming in on a clear day, it's good. But also just remember that we'll have scenarios where the visibility is not great, or there's big surge and swell and sand will come up. So as soon as you're firing any form of light into the water, it will highlight all kinds of debris, speckles, dust, sand. And it's pretty tricky. We try and keep the arms either very close to the body, depending on the size of the animal we're working with, or we try and spread it as far out as we can so that we don't light up everything right in front of us. Some different images taken. This image was taken down in Mozambique. Just really playing with the silvers and the reds. I try to take most of my images without divers in the background. I'm not very fond of the whole diver and the rule of thirds and all that. For me, it's about the natural animals and showcasing them the way they are in nature. When you see a scene like this underwater, you actually just sit down and you look at it and go, wow. For us, sitting down means you get neutral buoyancy and you hover. Okay, so no sitting on the reef. But yeah, this kind of scene, once you've seen it for yourself, it's just amazing. As you can see in the bottom of this picture below, the cuttlefish, there's a lot of sand that you can maybe see in the background, and that will come out because of the huge amount of lighting we're using to actually get light to light up the whole picture in the distance. Some interesting behaviors that we sometimes find, how different species team up to hunt together, just like you would find in game reserves and stuff where birds and monkeys work together. So do fish. Yeah. This was quite an interesting story, as I'm sure a lot of people have seen a lot of my photography goes around big animals, more specifically about sharks. And on this specific image, what happened is we forgot to tie the bolt in that holds the bait drum. So when we threw the bait drum over the board, the bait drum went down and the buoy went in a different direction. So we had to go and retrieve our bait drum, which was obviously on the ground. Needless to say, this big loggerhead decided that he was not going to budge and he wasn't going to give it back to us because there was food in there. So we spent 40 minutes photographing him eat all our bait. We then took the drum back to the boat, and guess what? We went back home because we had no bait to do our shark dive. And yeah, he went home quite full.
I'm going to suggest that you have a checklist before, you know, so cards, batteries, tied drums on, etc.
Yeah, no, look, this is over a period of 10, 11 years. I mean, I've been diving for 20 plus years as an instructor. So, you know, my real imagery started in 2007. And I'll quickly tell the story because you'll maybe understand why it became such a challenge. During at the time, I was a dive instructor, and I really didn't like photographers and videographers underwater. The reason for this is they would always delay the dive, they'd always get lost, you'd always have to go and look for them because, you know, you can only see so far in water, and if you've got 5 meters viz, all the guy has to do is deviate 5 meters to my right or 5 meters to my left, and he's gone. You know, so you have to have quite strict rules in water, especially when you're dealing with the public, and the fact that you can actually become legally liable if someone drowns or goes missing or something like that. But one day a friend of mine stuck a camera in my hand and I had a free dive, and he said, listen man, stop giving us such a hard time. You go and try this. And I said, oh, whatever. And I took the camera. It was a Sony W7 in an old Sony compact housing. Not much light from those little cameras, but you know, at that time it was a digital camera, which was quite cool. So when I got back, I was quite keen to have a look at the photographs that I'd achieved. And we put it on the computer screen, and I must say they were BB. Now, if you're a diver, everyone knows what BB means, and there's a lot of acronyms for it. But in this case, it was blue and blurred. Everything. Every single photograph was either blue or blurred. And it was like, no, this cannot be. And then he said, well, have a look at some of my images. And I did. And it was like, no, come on, you can't do this to me. So that afternoon, I actually went to a Shark and Marine World where the little Sony shop had opened up, and I bought myself my first camera. And from there, we've literally progressed. So that's 2007 to where we are today. Yeah, I must say, I was rather fond of that small camera. I used to carry it with me as a spare, but we've lost it since then. Another checkbox, put cable onto BC. All right, so yeah, some images we've taken down in Sodwana. I really like the flow, the different direction the animal's moving in, and it just gives you a different idea of the imagery we can get. I'm going to go through quite a bit of reef stuff quite quickly. I love doing reef photography, especially when you get this type of vibrancy in an image. You know, especially when you drop off at the back of the boat, you have no expectation. All of a sudden you come to a certain section of the reef, and this is the life on it. It's just amazing.
That's incredible.
Then you get to places like Cape Town, where essentially all the fish are silver, very dull colored, except for the red Romans, but their coral life and soft corals, etc., is phenomenal. The colors are just amazing. And this is just an image taken with a high shutter speed, shutting out the light before it gets past. And yeah, just something very, very different. So this is taken in Mozambique, where we found all this life form just around this one green coral tree. Not common to find all those animals in one area. Here's another one from Mozambique. Just really the orange and the blues popping, different colors, textures. Back to Mozambique. I'm going to run through these quite quickly because I'll make sure I've got enough images to keep you guys busy for an hour. And if you're bored, you can kind of go and do something else. But this should be pretty cool. All right. A lot of times we forget, I'm just going one back, a lot of times as underwater photographers, we forget to take portrait style images, and it's very important as an underwater photographer to keep on remembering this, because magazines, etc., require that style, especially for front pages, all that type of thing. So landscapes are amazing, but you also got to keep on changing your mindset back into that portrait view and trying to get something with a bit of negative space. This image was quite an interesting one. It's not often fish swim towards it either, but I was very fortunate to actually watch a bit of behavior that was happening. So these yellow fish were being chased up to the surface by a kingfish at the bottom hunting, and literally when they got to the top, the kingfish in the top was then chasing them back down, and the two kingfish were having this go, one at the top, one at the bottom during their hunt. And all I had to do was place myself in between the two of them to get this photograph, which I think is rather different. This was quite a recent photograph that I've taken coming back from Cuba. I like it. It was nice just to get the shark, the shark in the middle there, which is pretty cool. Also, once again, with underwater photography, patience is essential. It doesn't help you go zooting around underwater chasing things, because literally the environment will not be happy with the fact that you're there. And the less you move, the stiller you can be, the better, because then the fish will actually get used to you there, and they'll actually come back and go back into their natural way of doing things. So always patience, and always get as close as you can, and give it time. I know we don't have a lot of time. We're generally limited to an hour, 20 minutes or so on a dive. But we use every second of it, and if you use it properly, you get some great stuff. This image is actually quite an interesting one to see. Also, once again, a habit. These guys like to dig in the sand. So if you want to get a nice close photograph of them, you go and sit in the sand, and you take some sand and you throw it up into the air. And they'll come down and have a look because they're inquisitive. They want to see what's in there. And you do that a few times, and you'll come straight into the lens. So literally, you can see the fishes on the lens. I'm shooting with a 15mm fisheye lens here, which is my go-to lens in general. Every now and then I get convinced to dabble into the area of macro photography, the small stuff, the irritating stuff, the annoying stuff, the really frustrating stuff. And then it cures me, so I'll do 1 or 2 dives with these guys, and then I'm cured and I'm back to my wide angle stuff, big fish. And let's have a look. There's always an art in getting these images, especially that it's single subjects, and it makes it very difficult to actually make them pop. This is a painted frogfish that we were able to get. Actually, one of my first images I got that won one of the competitions locally here in South Africa.
Are you going to?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, are you going to talk about settings and that sort of thing at some stage, or can I ask as we go through?
They're welcome to ask settings and stuff, but I'm going to explain the following quickly while we're on this. Okay, so just to give you an idea, these two fish are about the size of a 5-cent coin. Okay, you can see the blades of grass in the background there, so they're not big, So the problem that you have with settings and people asking how settings work, etc., is because the environment changes so quickly, so rapidly. I have to drop 1 meter in water, and my setting is different to what it was 1 meter above me. The dynamics of settings and underwater is just something that you have to do all the time. So what I'll do is I'll just give you some good tips in terms of settings and that. But if they want to know what specifically this setting was, that would be very difficult to say, because this specific image was taken in a mangrove up in Pumeni, and you know, this was literally on the high tide, and you literally could only photograph in the high tide because that's when the water was the cleanest. On the low tide, the water from the mangroves would then come through again, and you'd literally have zero visibility. This image was taken rather incidentally. It cost me a hole in my finger. So these guys have a very bad habit. They like to hang out in caves close to other subjects that are pretty cool. So when you put your finger down on the section where you want to balance yourself to take the photograph, that's where he's going to strike. He's going to bite you there. So once I knew where he was and he bitten me, I was able to then put my finger back there and take the shot, which was this result. Yeah, just something very different. These guys are tiny, macro settings. So for just in general, so for macro settings, obviously, you know, we've got to consider sync speeds, and we've got to consider movement. So we can't go too slow, we can't go too fast. We try where we can to black out the back area if we can. If not, then we have to try and find a better subject, or we use what we refer to as a bug-eye lens, which creates a like a fisheye view, but in a macro form. So you'd get this tiny subject right in the front of the macro lens, and the blooming of the ocean behind it with a sunburst or something like that. Trying to capture macro that kind of talks to people is pretty difficult, I must be honest. It's generally single subjects, but the colors and stuff are absolutely amazing. Once again, some porcelain crabs just looking straight up at the camera. Then understanding the different types of anemones, etc. You'll also be able to get good photo opportunities just by knowing that if there's quite a bit of swell, that the skirt will lift up and it will be a beautiful purple, whereas if it was just flat, you would never see that. But knowing that this specific type would have a purple skirt does help in getting images that are different. That same anemone, just with a porcelain crab sitting on the edge of it, and then taken with a negative space on the left. This little guy was caught in the Red Sea. Quite cute, but very difficult to photograph because they don't sit still. Actually, very few things sit still in the ocean. Another crab in an anemone. But this guy was tiny. You can actually see by the sand on the skirt there that how small the crab is. All right, then a bit of photography in terms of mangroves and stuff. For me, one of the most amazing places to be able to dive is in mangroves. They literally the lifeline to the ocean. They are breeding ground. Everything starts off there. The eggs are laid there. The young fish hatch. They grow up, and they get to a maturity and age where they can actually go out and defend for themselves once they move out of those thick mangroves and stuff. And to be able to see this and actually witness how the mangroves interact in terms of a nursery is just amazing. Hard work. Currents move up and down in the mangroves, and sometimes the water's not that great. But when you get a good day, you know, it's just amazing to see what life is hiding between all those roots and everything around it. All of that fish will obviously grow and become either young barracudas, whatever it is. They're schooling all over. It's actually very difficult to show the diversity.
Oh, I love the angle on this one. That's fantastic.
Yeah, stingrays, I mean, literally everything all over the place. And what's nice is you can get the light cutting through. So even if the water's dirty, you're still getting a visual aspect that's pleasing. Then you get these guys come and say hello every now and then. Okay, so the guys live on the mangroves, but they will do anything for food. So if you have a look in the background, you'll see a whole lot of iguanas. They're not generally fond of water, these guys. They're not like the ones in some of the islands that we find. But this is a hoocha. It's basically in English known as a banana rat. He's about the size of a large cat. But their eyesight is shocking. But they work on smell. So all you do is you put a piece of watermelon or something on the dome board of the camera, and he will smell. He'll literally walk into the water and come and find it. So just something that we learned while we were there. And then this guy decided he was going to go for a swim because he got that piece of watermelon there, but we were able to capture him nicely with a ship in the background and just something different, you know. It's not always about fish. It's sometimes about what else is in the water, what else can you create an image with when working as an underwater photographer. This is closer to home, so anyone who knows Oliver Shoal knows these guys. I spend quite a bit of time photographing them. I just love Cathedral, amazing place to dive. That's probably my favorite dive spot in the world. The problem is Oliver Shoal is not always that kind to us when it comes to visibility, so now you have to make a different plan. You have to use contrasting lights, etc., to try and create something unusual. These guys are obviously photographed very close, so once again, working with a fisheye lens. So they're working between 1 meter and 30 centimeters off me. I must say that they're not the smartest characters in the planet, rather docile, swim around. But this young lady had this thing with this potato bass because the potato bass kept on stealing the sardine from her before she could realize where it was. And at some stage she just went, no, that's it. I've had enough. And you can see that potato bass is pretty big. But she went for him, and I must say he survived. He was pretty much unscathed. But every now and then the raggy will say, hey, you know, my territory. This is taken of Fiji. I just love just all the movement, craziness of the image. Sometimes these young sharks are pretty curious. They're coming very close, have a look and see. Most animals are curious, but most of them will move off. They're not really fond of all the bubbles and stuff. So if you're not on a rebreathe or something like that, then they generally don't come in too close. Some more stuff from Fiji. They're doing amazing work. They just give you a bit of background in terms of our environmental. The dive company, Adventure Divers, have started a reef protection program incorporating the locals, and the locals literally patrol these reefs themselves. But in return, what they get is they get a percentage of every single fee that a diver pays to dive there to support the local community. And the actual local community has now become the policing forum. And just about 4 years ago, government actually realized how much work had been done by the local communities, etc., and declared it a reserve. And that was just because the community and the local divers worked together to actually protect this reef. Unfortunately, now during lockdown, it apparently has been targeted again, but hopefully they can do something to stop that. Moving on to Cape Town waters, as I said, I love energy of water, movement, light, color, and working close with animals is very important for me. These dusky dolphins, believe it or not, are very shy, but they actually got used to us in the water and then started coming around, circling and playing along, and we were able to get some really nice shots. But I think what you can see from our presentation, though, is nearly every set of images is taken off a dive. So you've really, really got to work hard in that hour a bit that you have to get these images, because you don't have as much time as you would have in a studio where you can plan something for a week, 2 weeks, or whatever. It's literally, you're limited by the amount of nitrogen exposure, etc., etc. the odd diver in a photograph. That's Greg Lecure, one of our French photographers, very good photographer. So as you can see, we were fortunate because we were working on snorkel, so they were more likely to come in closer. Whereas if we had been on scuba, they definitely wouldn't have come in as close as they did. All right, and then this is just to show how we can do things a little bit differently in terms of our imagery. This is a standard image I take any day of the week in Mozambique with a salty shark. It is what it is. However, just by changing some of the settings and working differently with the light you have, the two opposing energies, sunlight and then your artificial lighting, you can start changing the image to something really different. And these are the images I really enjoy taking when you have sun, where well, put it this way, I enjoy taking photographs into the sunlight. For me, it really works well. Yes, Cape Town seals, give you another example of how we've played with light. This is very late afternoon, so you can see the light coming in from the left. This young seal pup is smiling away at us. They like to bark at you. They can be pretty nerve-wracking to dive with if you don't know them. And some seals get pretty big, but the pups are more the guys that want to show off their prowess, and then they want to bark and blow bubbles, and they're just crazy. But you can often find yourself with one pup sitting on your fin, one pup bitten onto your hoodie, and the other pup hanging onto your cylinder, and one coming forward at you, because that's what they do. And then sometimes they give you that cute face, which don't really want to know if you want to trust that face. And once again, using the light just to create something really interesting for me.
Yeah, those rays of light are so cool.
Yeah, they really, and what's really cool about photographing Cape Town, it's got that green texture in the water which gives you a natural color curtain. And then literally when the light breaks through it, it's a real orange glow. Whereas when you find yourself in very clean water, you don't have the same impact. You don't have the same wow factor. It's almost as if you want the water to be slightly dirty.
Yeah, what I quite like about them is it almost looks like there's a flare being added in afterwards, where of like a bit of a light leak or something like that. It's just got a really nice feel to it from a color point of view. Really, really cool.
Yeah. And then seals love surfing just like dolphins do, believe it or not. They love it. So we found a place where we could actually get in underneath the water and sit on a ledge where the water was breaking over to get these shots. Daunting, yes, because you're literally getting pummeled. But worth it? Hell yes. The images we got were just fantastic. Then that late afternoon light where the sun is just breaking through. A lot of my work, I like to work between 0 and about 5 meters. That's where I think color is the most effective. And the animals really, really stand out. This young pup gave me a full go, and not just once. He really went for it to such an extent I could actually time him. I knew when he would come. And it even got better later on. I think I might have the photograph in there, where these guys just rolling around. So now, guys, and I must tell you, please be careful now when you start working in this time of the day. This is really late. This is 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. Your sharks and stuff, their behavior starts to change now. This is when they start going into hunting mode. This is when they're looking for food, etc. So if you don't know behavior, you don't understand the animals, etc., please don't just jump in the water, and go and think you're going to get these photographs. It's not as simple as that. There's safety divers involved. There's a guy with a boat right next to us. There's a lot of things involved in getting imagery like this. It's not just a matter of jump in and snap it. Okay, please. I must put that out there. And I say this to divers as well. I've seen some divers that are pretty reckless. So remember I was saying I was able to time that seal. So what was happening, he was coming for me, and then just in front of me, it'd pop and break the water. So I thought, well, let me see if I can get a split. So I got a split, and then I got that one, which was pretty cool, you know. So it's just something different from your norm. And this guy was loving it, but unfortunately, we had to go after that. Yeah, something from the sardine run. Once again, guys, sardine run, very explosive, super cool, adrenaline filled, but go with operators you know and trust, and understand that, you know, when you're getting in the water, you're doing it with your own consent, and, you know, things can go wrong. Always expect that. Always understand you're dealing with nature. These are predators. They're not puppies or meerkats or whatever you want to call them. This specific photo was taken in around about 2 meters visibility. The reason it actually looks so blue on the top is because I shot straight up. Visibility is generally not measured by vertical light. It's measured by horizontal light in water. So horizontally, you literally couldn't see 2-3 meters. And that you really want someone looking after you. That's a bit more of a reality of how dark that water really was. But it also created an image that you wouldn't be able to recreate anywhere. You know, you've got the scales, the intensity, the light, just everything working for it. Then you were lucky if you got this kind of thing. Every now and then you get a patch of cleanish water, and you go through, because this whole bait ball is moving. It's dynamic. It's going shallower, deeper as the predators are hunting it, and you're working hard to stay with it. These guys are some of the fastest fish in the ocean, and, you know, to actually get them photographed like that means you had to know exactly what was happening when it happened, and timing. Just watching them all the time, keeping an eye on what's happening, and then taking the photograph. This photograph for me is one of my favorite images I've ever taken. Just this tube, and you're literally looking at this hidden shark inside this tube of in this case, anchovies. More from the sardine run. Common dolphins, I don't know why they call them common. I mean, literally, if you compare them to a bottlenose, I mean, chalk and cheese, they got color, sleek lines, everything. Whereas a bottlenose is pretty much a grey fish. All right, so a bit of playing with the light.
That's very cool. That's so cool.
That's my thing. I really enjoy it. So a lot of people get very angry with me when I'm actually in their photograph, because they like the sun behind them, and then I'm the only diver photographing into the sunlight, and they're going, "Get out of the way, get out of the way." I'm like, "Hang on, I just want my 3 or 4 shots, and I'll get up your way." So you can also see how, working with the light, that you get the textures on the top of the water as well. That dolphin's actually got a sardine in its mouth. Once again, colors, textures, energy, movement. These guys came straight at me, and after that, I got the biggest bump I ever got in a long time, because the dolphin followed straight after them, and he literally gave me a shot in the ribs. And I tell you what, they're powerful. They're very powerful. Gannets, most amazing subject to photograph in the sardine run. These guys swim up to 20 meters down to try and catch fish. The problem is, when you're sitting at 2-3 meters and they hit the water from the height, it's literally like gunshots. And you've really got to watch out. You're not sure if you should be worried about the sharks and stuff feeding on the bait ball, or the gannets coming with their beaks straight down at your head. So yeah, on this specific dive, I actually started photographing and concentrating more on the birds. And I really got some really nice images out of it. This was back in 2013 and 2011. Dolphin coming to say hello.
I just love that previous shot with you know, the way that the colors work together and the contrasts work together. Oh, yes. So cool.
Yeah, we try and get that as much as we can. This is now a typical example of a day where the water was literally blue. And it was really, I was battling to get some energy into the images. So yes, it's a great image, dolphins hunting. And these are, believe it or not, oceanic bottlenose dolphins. They're a lot bigger than the ones you see in the waves, you know, in front of Durban or Cape Town. They literally 2.5 to 3 meters in length, and they're massive. I actually was quite worried at this stage, and one of these guys actually gave me a little bit of a tail slap, and I had a blue arm for around about a week. But that's how you work. You have to really get in close to them, you know, to get the right photographs. And then all of a sudden, a whole lot of sharks moved in as well. And now we started getting the sharks actually behaving the same way as the dolphins did, which is the first time I've ever seen. The sharks normally would disrupt the spike ball and cause chaos. These guys were actually working with the dolphins. They've obviously learned over the years. And it's the first time we've actually spotted that behavior. You can actually see them. They're not chasing ahead or anything. They're literally working with these guys and herding and hunting. These are yellowtail mackerel that we photographed that day. And then all of a sudden, as it was getting later and later, because now we had already spent, it was my second cylinder, so we had been in the water for about 3 hours now at 14 degrees Celsius, which is it's not a joke. You're shivering. You're hoping that your image stabilization is working because the hands can't stay still. And I started to note that the sunlight was really starting to change now, and that the animals had pushed these mackerel into a decent ball, which was starting to make the photography a little bit different. And that's why I started taking images to get black and whites. I wanted a set of black and whites out of this with that natural light. And you can see if I go back to the previous image, yes, that's okay. But all of a sudden, this black and white just makes it pop. And now I started looking for that natural light coming in and shooting it up. Sorry, this is another image from a previous shoot. I don't know how that got in there, but it's quite, gives you an idea of what goes on and what we're doing. Here's the shark, got all the anchovies stuck in its side of the gills there. And then this, I don't know why they were out of order, my apologies, but this was the one photograph that we achieved on the day with the dolphins and the mackerel that literally, it's a once in a million. And if you see it in blue, it is as boring as hell. It's literally, there's no energy. And then when we converted it to black and white, it really just went wow. And then every now and then you get these mistake photographs. This was a big dusky shark that I didn't see coming. And he hit me from behind and went under my arm and straight to the bait ball. Why he knocked me, I have no idea. Maybe it was just a message to get out the way. But when he knocked my arm, I pulled the trigger and got that photograph. So just something interesting there. You can see my safety diver up in the top there. Then I also like to play with black and whites when it comes to showing the power of a shark when it bites into something and how the water and stuff move through the mouth and the gills. And I think this image really shows that. Surface work with these guys, the expressions you get sometimes from some animals are amazing. But I'll get to that now. So once again, just showing a bit of energy. And this is my real passion is predominantly sharks. And the reason for this is I was lucky enough to meet Thomas Piszczek and sit down and have a chat to him. And we were sitting over the red wine, and I said, Tom, what's the best way to actually get yourself into underwater photography and become noticed? And he said, find the local, how can I say, resource that is most available to you to photograph. And Aliwal Shoal is known for its sharks. And literally, the shark photography I've done is been able to raise my game in terms of photography, in terms of acknowledgement, etc., in the underwater photography community, like you can't believe. So a big thanks to these animals, because literally they have done it for me. And you can see how over the years I've taken different images and progressed to really different styles. And now I'm going to start snapping through them quickly because I've just been given a bit of a hurry up. So this is up in Cuba. I really enjoyed it there. Just liked the different energy that we were able to get late afternoon. Guys, if you think this photograph is easy, try it. Get a shark to swim in front of your lens at sunset on the surface. It's very difficult. And yeah, then you get a shot like this where the sun is perfectly on the dorsal fin. I just love it. It's something quite interesting. This image is actually been printed in 1 or 2 magazines in the States at the moment. Somehow they enjoyed it as well. Split levels is my thing, and then this is really what we do. The next 3 images that you're going to see now were the 3 images that we won the 2018 World Championships with in terms of shark photography, and it will show you that South Africa is on the map. We're out there, and we're doing well. And then last but not least, every now and then you'll find a subject that you've always wanted to photograph, and then you get the opportunity. And I'm going to tell you the story because I think I've got the time to do it. So while I've been up into the Delta to photograph crocs. That didn't go too well. And then my chance came up in Cuba, and we were sitting on a boat, and the guys kept on calling Nino, 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 and I'm like, okay, cool, this croc's got a name. And about half an hour later, all of a sudden this crocodile appeared out of the mangroves and swam close, and I'm like, geez, have they habituated these crocodiles to such an extent that it's responding to a name? And I'm like, okay, cool, well, that's interesting. So kind of hesitantly got into the water, looked at how it worked, because I was the only guy in the water, and I just started taking photographs, and every now and then he'd get pretty close, and I'd get a little bit nervous. But it's somehow as if you go into a movie mode where your brain and the adrenaline kind of work together and kind of tell you that the camera in front of you is everything you need to protect you, that it's the weirdest thing. In any case, so after taking these photographs and getting some really cool ones, I got back on the boat, and we were driving back, and the guy was shouting Nino again. And I kind of said to him, but you were calling the other crocodile Nino. What, is there 2 crocodiles with the same name? And the guy said, no, we just call all crocodiles Nino. So immediately that whole false sense of security about habituation and they're okay and safe just went gone. And I went, holy, okay, so you've just actually been in the water with a croc that they're not actually sure who it is. And that realization actually came to me, and I must tell you, I had to think about it. The second time I got into the water, I had to think hard about this croc and whether we're going to join him. And we did. So we got some other images as well. And, just in general, I've been very fortunate with my underwater photography, and on the odd occasion being able to get to areas where it's just such a great place to photograph. And this was our parting shot just before sunset. I really would have liked the sun above his head, but he was not playing, and I wasn't going to push him any further. And then the last image I've put in there for you guys is what we're really focusing on for the next project. I really want to go and photograph these guys. Well, I want to do this year, but we'll most probably do it next year, depending on the lockdown. But once again, in Cape Town waters, cold, green, beautiful golden nights, and these humpback whales, I think, will make a very special image if you can get them at the right time of the day. And that's really been my photography journey over the last 10, 15 years. I've learned a hell of a lot, self-taught, and I really hope my journey can continue. And if there's anyone who ever wants any advice or information, whatever, please feel free to ask at any time. The whole idea is really to promote photography as a whole, not just underwater photography, but you know, if there's someone that really wants to get involved in this genre, yeah, please, you know, make contact. There's a few of us that are prepared to help and get involved. Guys, if there's any questions, you're welcome to ask. I think there should be about 5 or 6 minutes left.
Yeah, no, we've got a couple of minutes, so that's cool. I'm just gonna stop your shared screen there, and there we go, perfect. Yes, there are some fantastic images there. You know, I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, you look at these things and you go, it's so beautiful. It's all just, it feels so crafted, and the, you know, there's also then the understanding that this has clearly taken years to develop to where it is, you know, to get to be in a position to be able to take that image, but then also to have the skill for you know, making sure you've got the right setting for that particular image. And I think that the images there are incredible. So thank you very much for you know, for sharing them with us. I just wanted to just look at the I mean, I suppose it's the same thing, you know, every time we have a presentation, if you want to know settings, etc. And I suppose from my land photography side of things, you know, it's you know, obviously you've got the two options there. You've got one where you've got a lot more light coming through, and others where it's you know, it's basically just the artificial light. So I mean, is there a starting point that you would look at for the more ambient lighting, you know, as far as shutter speed and aperture and ISO, and then what would it be on the artificial side of things?
Okay, so the guy that is starting with the natural light, obviously natural light photography has to be taken towards the sun. It's very difficult if you can have the sun behind you. You obviously need that light. So you'll find most natural light photographers work on the 125. They'll generally work on an f8, and you most probably have an ISO at about 320, especially with your cameras like the, you know, the smaller ones where you can't push your ISO up.
Yeah.
You know, 350 at 400 it starts getting grainy in water, especially in water. So, you know, my personal setting for that type of thing is 320 ISO, and I use that on the 7D and the 1D Mark II. And I find it's the most forgiving ISO there. In terms of artificial light and strobes and stuff, what I can tell photographers is if they're going into underwater photography, you're in an environment already where you at risk. It's adventure sport, you know. So you don't want to task load yourself to such an extent that you put yourself in harm's way because you're not thinking about what you're doing underwater. So my first rule to underwater photography is first let diving become your mode of transport, not your hobby. Okay, so learn how to dive properly. Understand where your gear is, know your gear. You mustn't be fiddling with things. You must really know your stuff, because now you can concentrate on your camera. And once you concentrate on your camera, now you really need your motor skills to kick in here. You need to know where your buttons are. You need to know how they're working. And that's more important than any setting, because settings you can change. But if you start wondering, well, what button does this roller do? And what button does that roller do? Where's the ISO now? You know, how do I change? Those things start frustrating you. Now you're going to start hyperventilating. You're starting to breathe harder. You're starting, you're starting to get really annoyed. And this is where things start going pear-shaped, completely underwater. So knowing your actual camera and literally driving like you drive a car is the second most important thing to do. Then to me, the third most important thing is try and get constants. So for instance, set your strobes to half power each. Set your f-stop, let's say, to f13, but then just change your shutter speed as you go. You know what I mean? So keep as many constants as you can, so you don't have to constantly change all different things. So as soon as you've got some constants in your game, now you can really start playing. I like to keep, in terms of when I've got artificial light, my constant is 200 in terms of shutter speed, and I like to roll my f-stop. I roll my f-stop from f8 to f13. As soon as I start going lower than f8, I really start losing interest in the image, because now I'm starting to lose depth in the image. I'm starting to lose my textures, all those kind of things that I really want, that water gives me. So those are the things that I always think about. So settings is important underwater, but remember, it's not critical, because you've got so many things that you can capture. The only thing that you've got to remember is don't make it too dark. If you want a dark background, then you've really got to photograph for it. It mustn't be done by mistake. Trying to fix a bad photograph through Photoshop and that really doesn't work in underwater, because underwater really highlights your faults. It really highlights if you're overexposed, underexposed, all that. You know, it's got texture, and it's not like air where you won't see if the guy had the strobe set to high unless you really look close up the person's skin or face. So those are the tips I can really give. I must be honest, I need to improve my knowledge in terms of the mirrorless cameras now and stuff. I've just never had a need to use them, because I think the setup I've got right now is more than adequate. But I think mirrorless is definitely changing the way the industry thinks and the way you can do things with underwater photography. So now all of a sudden sync speeds aren't a problem anymore. You know, all these things that a DSLR user has as a concern when it comes to underwater photography, now all of a sudden mirrorless has said, no, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You can go past 200, 250. You can diversify now. You can change things. ISOs, I mean, what Canon has done in terms of their mirrorless cameras on their ISO is just insane. You know,
absolutely.
I wish my 1DX Mark II could do that. You know, I almost want to trade them in and go, well, hold on, just give me a mirrorless camera. You can keep this one. In terms of travel, think about it this way: how they've made it. You know, a guy with a mirrorless setup can literally walk it. He's carrying a 4 or 5 kilogram setup, where I've got a 15 kilogram bulky setup. So underwater photographers or future underwater photographers need to think about the weight they're carrying, everything that they have to take with them. The only thing that I think right now the mirrorless guys haven't got right yet is your battery time. You know, a lot of some of the cameras are only getting 200 shots. You know, now that does, you know, it sounds like a hell of a lot. But if you were in a studio or something like that, 200 photographs is a lot. But if you're underwater and you've only got an hour and a half, that guy's chasing as many images as he can. And he doesn't want the camera to die halfway during the dive. So that's the only reason I really haven't gone over to mirrorless yet. But I think it's coming. And hopefully Roger will keep us in good communication related to, you know, those improvements there. Because obviously the investment is massive. So we don't just buy the camera. We've got to buy the housing, the strobes, all that. You know, so that's where it is. So if there's any questions with regards to how to really start getting involved and what type of things to look at, my advice is do your research properly now. Learn from the people that have learned. I got to my setup by lots of errors. I bought incorrect cameras, incorrect housings. I wasted money on video lights, on strobes.
We all.
You know, and then you just dump it because you can't even sell it. Because
exactly.
whoever you're trying to sell it, you're saying, no, you're dumping your rubbish on me. No. And literally, I've got a drawer full of stuff that we've end up giving away. So if you're going to go into this because it's expensive, get in contact with some of the top photographers in terms of underwater and ask them what they've learned, because they can tell you a lot and you'll save a lot of money. But in terms of getting hooked, I tell you what, once you get 2 or 3 great images, it's there. It's really it's a passion. I'm even asking the guys at the One Game Reserve if they don't want to see if I can try and do splits in one of their pools, you know, with cheetahs and stuff. Yeah. And he's not biting yet, but we're gonna try. Yes, I want to take that underwater genre, you know, to land animals and see if it can work. I can't see why not, you know.
Absolutely. So that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. So yeah. Any other things?
Do you have do you offer, you know, workshops and training and that sort of thing in this regard? Because I think it'd be great if some of the people watching this would have a look at that and see if they'd like to join you. Is it something that maybe after this video you can put into the discussion, some links to your workshops, etc.?
Yeah, look, what I generally do is I don't do workshops. I prefer to work on a one-on-one basis with photographers, and I prefer the mentoring style.
Cool.
Because diving is so like, this guy's got that weekend available, that guy's got this. It's not like, okay, let's meet at the game reserve or let's meet in the studio.
Yeah.
So we would like to go on the mentoring basis, where essentially we will mentor a photographer from start until they are to a stage where we think that, choose your own path. And then this is, I think, important, and you'll agree with me, it doesn't matter what type of photographer you are. You've got to create your own style, your kind of your own brand. And my style of underwater photography is definitely not the style of other people's. And I try and keep myself current by doing things differently. And then if you're not going to keep yourself current in underwater photography, you're just going to kind of fade away. And that's very important. So if you're going to mentor to such an extent that they're literally copying your image, well, then you've kind of lost the plot.
Yeah.
You want to lead the person just enough for them to start getting the maturity and how can I say, the adventure to go on their own path, and that's important for me. Absolutely.
All right, I think we're kind of just on the hour. So before we get cut off, once again say thank you very much, Alan. The images are fantastic. I certainly there's something biting me, and I'm thinking to myself, it would be pretty cool to get underwater and shoot images like that. But I think I have a problem with sharks. Maybe that's something that would also need to be worked on. But yeah, just thank you so much for your time and your energy and your beautiful images. I really appreciate you taking the time and effort to be with us today. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Good, thank you. And if I see we didn't have a lot of participants this time, but we can maybe look at a reschedule at some stage if we run out of presenters. Maybe we'll attract some more people.
Absolutely. And as I say, there are, you can always join in the comments after the video and, answer any questions that come up. So yeah, thanks very much. Cheers, Alan.
Cool. Thank you guys. Have a good one.